This is lesson 11.2 with a focus on arithmetic sequences and series, and specifically finding the sum of an arithmetic series. And so let's start out with just a few review problems about series that we talked about in lesson 11.1. When we need to find the sum of a series, generally if we only have a few terms, so for example in number 1 we have 10 terms that we need to find, really all we need to do is continue the pattern and write out all 10 terms and we can add them up. So here are the 10 terms, and when we add them up, we get that the sum is 205. Same thing if we have summation notation, we can use the rule and generate all 8 terms and just punch them into our calculator and add them up. So we'll plug in 1, plug in 2, all the way to 8. And so if we don't have a lot of terms, when we list out all 8 terms for number 2, we can just add them up in our calculator and get 64. Now, number 3, though, is a little bit different because it says find the sum of the first 50 terms. Well, it's not very practical to write out all 50 terms. And so what we're going to do is take this arithmetic sequence and we're going to learn today a good formula that we can use to find the sum of a sequence. If we have a lot of terms, and even if we have a little, like in 1 and 2, we could use this formula. And it looks like this. So this is the formula for the sum of an arithmetic sequence. So let's take a look at a couple of things here. Sn just talks about the sum. So the sum of all the terms that we would normally list out, whether there's 8 or 10 or 50 of them, is equal to n, so that's the number of terms, how many, times the first term plus the last term in the list. So if we're finding the sum of 50 terms, it would be A50. If we're finding the sum of 10 terms, it would be A10. So if we can plug everything into this formula, we'll be able to find the sum of an arithmetic sequence or an arithmetic series. And now just keep in mind that when we have an arithmetic sequence, the rule will always have this form. It will be d times n plus some number. We're used to seeing it listed more like this, like 2n plus, I don't know, 5, just to make one up off the top of my head. Or you might see it listed like this, 5 plus 2n. That is the form that an arithmetic sequence will take. So let's see an example. Here's my first arithmetic sequence. I want to find the sum of the first 50 terms. That's my n. So right here, that's going to be 50. Now I need to know my first term. Well, hey, it's right there. There's A1. But now I need to know my last term. That's A50. And so in order to find A50, what we're going to do is use our general arithmetic sequence formula. So keep in mind, we don't want the rule. We just want the 50th term. So A50 would be equal to A1, the first term, plus D. Well, D is what we're adding each time. And so here we can tell that D is 3. And then we want the 50th term, so we're going to put in 50 for n. And when I do that, I will find that my 50th term should be 151. Now I'm going to plug it all into my sum formula. So the sum of the first 50 terms is equal to 50 times the first term, 4, plus the 50th term, 151, all divided by 2. And I'm going to use proper order of operations, and I'm going to find that the sum of all 50 terms, if I were going to add them all up in my calculator and write them all out, they would add up to 3,875. So let's try another one. Now I'm going to find the sum of the first 20 terms. That's n. Here's my first term, but I need to find my 20th term. That's my last term in my list if I were going to add them up in my calculator. So the 20th term, A20, is equal to, and here I'm going to use that general form again, A1 plus D times n minus 1. So again, that's A1. So A1 is 5, and then D here, it looks like I'm adding 6 each time, so plus 6, and then n is 20. I want the 20th term. So when I work that out, I get 119. Then I can find my sum. So the sum of the first 20 terms is equal to n, which is 20, times the first term, 5, plus the 20th term, 119, all divided by 2, which in my calculator, using proper order of operations, ends up being 1,240. Now let's take a look at summation notation. Remember, all summation notation tells us is that we're finding the sum of all the terms from the first term to the 20th term. So again, we still need to know the first term and we still need to know the 20th term. Well, hey, here's our rule. Let's find the first term. So A1, I'm going to plug 1 in for n. And then my 20th term is 2 times 20 plus 1, or 41. Now I'm ready to evaluate and plug it into my formula. So it'll look like this. The sum of the first 20 terms is equal to n, which is 20, times the first term, 3, plus the last term, or the 20th term, which is 41, all divided by 2. And when I evaluate it, I should get 440.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.